Welcome, Knights of the Round Table, followers of Morgaine, and wait, is this Doctor Who or Excalibur? This is episode 304 of Unearthly Podcast, streaming live on the 8th of May, 2019, and featuring Battlefield. Written by Ben Aronovich and starring Sylvester McCoy as the Doctor and Sophie Aldred as Ace. I am your host for this season, Randy Ronson McCulloch. And with me on the panel tonight is our technical director, Mad Matt Winchell.
A dream to some, a nightmare to others.
Tim the Enchanter Sheridan.
May the Force be with you.
And Thomas Fireheart.
You made him king. I didn't vote for him.
You don't vote for kings.
I'm sorry. Matt, I know where he got that from.
Yep.
Thomas, right genre, wrong movie. Tim, way the hell out in left field.
Come join me in left field. It's nice and sunny.
Anyway, this is an episode that Bill's going to be pissed he missed.
Mm-hmm. Because you two have been going on about it forever.
Yeah. Of season 26, this is our favorite episode. And apparently, from the murmuring I heard prior to the podcast, some of you have issues with it. Y'all can kiss my ass. But we'll get to that when we get to that. So how's the week been for everybody?
Oy vey.
Not too bad, aside from my really insane, my sleeping habits being way worse than usual.
I've learned that if I sleep sideways on my bed, I get better sleep than if I try to sleep normally.
Huh.
And
Happens some of the time.
that's because the freaking canyon that is the center of my bed becomes a speed bump that way. It just becomes basically a butt groove.
Yeah.
Which I can stand, but the other way around, I have this freaking, canyon of stuff. So, yeah, I've been sleeping sideways on my bed, and Aaron's been looking at me funny.
Don't you question my ability to sleep?
Yes.
I've gotten more sleep in the last 2 nights than I've gotten in the week before that.
I forget where I read it, but I remember
Right on.
seeing somewhere where if you lie on a particular side, apparently it helps you breathe easier or something when you're trying to sleep. I forget.
It doesn't help with
That's
me.
a maybe.
Yeah, I have to about sleep on my face to actually be able to breathe.
Like with everything medical, it always depends upon the person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I had to stop playing a game this week.
No.
Oh yeah. I'll get into that if you want me to, but otherwise I'm just like, yep, I'm done. Nope, no more.
No mas. No mas.
I don't know. There's a lot of games you've had to stop playing because they've gotten too frustrating.
Well, when your final boss of your game suddenly becomes impossible to kill because of a bug, it's time to quit.
No.
Yeah, literally get to end game and they fuck me.
No.
It's like, okay. And there's also a couple of other issues that were hidden in the last couple of days too. It's like, yep, we're done.
All right.
But yeah. So that happened. Otherwise, on the bright side, we had an issue with the opening this week. I managed to fix it in 10 minutes, so thank goodness for that. I don't think there's anything else major going on at the moment otherwise.
All right. I guess really that's about all there is to say.
Crickets, yeah.
Oh, I had the worst experience at McDonald's yesterday.
Oh. McDonald's horror stories, do tell.
Well, it's just a small thing. Right now they're having the 2 for $5 pick 4 thing. So I've occasionally gone through and I've gotten quarter pounders, and chicken nuggets. Yesterday, I got the driest quarter pounder I have ever had.
Oof.
I mean, it was a desert. I had
Mm.
ordered quarter pounder chicken nuggets with honey mustard and a large water because I tend to drink more water than anything else these days.
All of a sudden, you need
Big-
to dip the hamburger in the honey mustard.
There was no honey mustard delivered to me.
Oh,
They gave me a small water instead of a large water,
roll
and my
eyes.
quarter pounder was dry as a bone. So today, we take off, and it's like, Aaron's like, can we stop to grab lunch? I'm like, sure. Where do you want to go? McDonald's? I'm like, nope. N-O-P, nope.
Not after last time.
Yep.
That was not worth the money you paid for it.
Yeah, that wasn't. It was bad. I actually went to a different McDonald's after picking her up that night, and on their graveyard shift, because this was a 24-hour McDonald's,
Mm.
I got a better quarter pounder than I got regular at this other one.
Yikes.
I'm like, okay, no. Monona McDonald's, you fail.
Yep. Every fast food restaurant, there's always just one in the chain that just absolutely fails at its job.
Thing is, I've eaten there before, and I've not had issue. I've eaten there at the same time before, and I've not had issue. But
Apparently, they got a newbie in and they royally effed everything up.
yeah, when you fail 3 times in one order, I'm sorry, I'm not eating there for a week.
Yep. You'll be lucky if you get me back next month. We've had so many failures from the Taco Bell in Hartford, Wisconsin, that we have sworn off going there anymore. Literally, our options going into that town anymore are, okay, we're not going there. Do we want pizza? Do we want Dairy Queen? Or do we want Culver's?
Culver's usually isn't bad.
Culver's is usually pretty solid from there, but we don't get Dairy Queen very often, so we'll get that instead sometimes.
It's one of the DQ grills.
Not sure, but I get a big basket of chicken, so I'm all good.
And yes, it is. Because basically, there's 2 kinds of Dairy Queens. There's the kinds that just serve ice cream and ice cream related products.
Oh, so yeah,
And
then
there's the one
most of the
that's
ones around here are grills, so yeah.
Yeah, those are dying out around here.
Hmm.
I think the only one I know of is in Fitchburg now.
Well, apparently the one in Hartford is around still too, so.
Yeah, but there used to be one in Verona, and it's gone now.
I think there's still another one over in the West Bend area.
You know what's also getting rare as hell?
Hmm.
A&W restaurants.
Oh, those have been slowly dwindling for decades.
Yes, I know.
It's
I
sad
remember
because I
when
love them.
I love the ones that you could drive up, place your order at the board, and they would deliver the food to your car.
Mm-hmm. I remember the
Because
good old
those were
days.
all over the place. And I would, and we would go there, and the
Best
few
place
that
to stop during the summer, yeah.
Yeah. There was one in Spring Green that my family stopped at traditionally. My mother would frequently get fried cheese curds from there, and she loved them to death.
We used to stop at one when I went up north to my grandparents, and always get the giant ass fucking mug full of fresh root beer.
That was the other thing. That's the reason I love these restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
Was the draft A&W root beer. And, I went to one, I think in La Crosse, like 10 years ago, and they're like, yeah, we don't do the draft root beer anymore. And I'm like, what? Then what's the purpose of you being a restaurant?
What's the purpose of you even having the A&W name anymore?
Yeah. Because that was just like, no, that's wrong.
Yeah,
But
that's like go into Baskin Robbins and saying, "I'm sorry, we don't serve dairy product."
Yeah, it's like going to Dairy Queen and say, sorry, we don't serve soft serve. What? Yeah. Sorry, we don't have blizzards anymore. What I wonder is, when did Dairy Queen and Orange Julius merge? Because I remember when Orange Julius was the shop in the mall. And because I'd futz around in the mall, and I'd occasionally get an Orange Julius on the way home. And then usually have to drink water because, that stuff had a horrible aftertaste. I liked it when I drank it, but then, about 10 minutes later, you're like, ew, what died?
Can't
But-
say I've had anything like that from Dairy Queen lately, but
And then they disappeared from, no, well, this is Orange Julius.
yeah.
And then the Orange Juliuses disappeared from the malls, and then they became part of the Dairy Queens. What the hell?
Dairy Queen just saw an opportunity and moved in, apparently.
Anyway,
Anyway,
that's
yeah.
enough little rant. On tonight's show, we've got news and birthdays, Geek Talk. Well, no, we don't have any Geek Talk.
Nope.
I'm sorry, I lied. We are out of Geek Talk. I mean,
we'll see in about a month.
Maybe then somebody can talk about Game of Thrones. I don't know. I know it's happening. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, there's only 2 episodes left, so...
Yeah, my excuse for not seeing Game of Thrones at this point is the fact that I'm actually making my own version called Conan. It's going to be a tabletop game.
All right. So let's go into news and birthdays. We've got a couple of birthdays tonight. The first is on the 5th of May, and that's the birthday of Richard E. Grant, who played the Lick the Mirror handsome 10th Doctor in Curse of Fatal Death, the angry 9th Doctor in Scream of the Shalka, and the evil Dr. Simeon in The Snowmen, and he turned 62. Also on the same day is the birthday of Delia Derbyshire, the composer who actualized the Doctor Who theme.
Oh, I
Would have been 82,
didn't see
but
that.
died in 2001 at 64.
Mm.
And then
Okay.
finally, on the 7th of May, is the birthday of Valentine Dial, who played the Black Guardian originally in the Key to Time season 1978 through 79, and then returned to play the Black Guardian again in the Enlightenment trilogy in 1983. He would have been 111, but died in 1985 at 77. That is kind of why they did that trilogy, because they knew he was not going to be doing much more.
Mm.
He was already feeling in his bones, I bet, yeah.
So
Alright.
that's it for birthdays. Happy birthday, Richard, Delia, and Valentine.
And
Or
many
Valentine.
more. Indeed.
So moving on to episode news, we have a little bit of filming news.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Doctor Who finished a 4-day filming stint at Tredegar House, a historic location northeast of Cardiff. Doctor Who has used this as a filming location many times since its 2005 revival, often being used for a historical or Victorian-era house. The big ones were the Torchwood House in Tooth and Claw in 2006, the School in Human Nature Family of Blood in 2007, and the Naismith Residence in End of Time in 2009. It was last used for Mee's home in The Woman Who Lived in 2015. 4-day stint is indicative of one episode using the house greatly, or possibly a 2-parter. We don't know yet, but stay tuned.
Yeah, so this is a traditional filming location that hadn't been used in a while, and they're coming back to, which is kind of nice.
Mm.
And I can tell you, it got used for a lot, but there was a lot of like little bit scenes in other episodes. And so, yeah, it's kind of a big thing.
Mm.
And I hate to say it, but the rest of our news is advertising publishing companies.
Yay!
First of all,
Product
Candy
placement.
Jar Books. Take it away, Tim.
Candy Jar announces the next book in the Lucy Wilson Mysteries series. In The Bandrill Invasion, Lucy tries to relax and watch the latest children's TV show, Billy Bandrill and his puppet pals. However, Hobo thinks there's something sinister about this show. And he's right! The Bandrill Invasion is available to pre-order exclusively from the Candy Jar and Lethbridge Stewart website. Also, Candy Jar have announced the final book in the Laughing Gnome series. In On His Majesty's National Service, a young brigadier gets involved with the Korean War. What horrors do we reveal there? The Laughing Gnome on His Majesty's National Service is available for pre-order now from the Candy Jar website. It is also covered by the normal subscription and the Laughing Gnome 6-book bundle.
That should be the last time we have to talk about the Laughing Gnome.
Yes.
It's a Laughing Gnome 2! Electric Boogaloo!
Let's hope not. All right, moving forward to our Big Finish news. The Doctor and Mags continue their adventures in the Moons of Vulpana. The pair go to Mags' homeworld during its golden era, an era that's about to end catastrophically. Doctor Who, The Moons of Vulpana is available now at £14.99 on CD or £12.99 download. And I don't need to tell you this unless, well, you might need to know werewolves are involved in this. All
Where?
right. What? Well, Mags is a werewolf, so
Oh.
alien werewolf.
Hmm.
All right. Moving forward, Trim Traylor and Katie Manning reprise their roles as the Third Doctor and Joe Grant for the Third Doctor Adventures Volume 5. 2 new adventures, including Primord by John Dorney and The Scream of Ghosts by Guy Adams. Doctor Who, The Third Doctor Adventures Volume 5 is out now, available at $24.99 on CD and $19.99 download. And that's all the news we have.
Yes.
Bam.
All the news that's fit to cast.
Yep.
And since we're moving at breakneck speed to make up for the fact that we're also been late today, so I guess we're going right into stopwatch because we literally only have an hour left of the show.
Really?
That's what we normally try to have it at, is if we're on time.
Yeah, we are. We were a bit behind schedule today,
Quite
which
a
I
bit.
apologize for. We had some issues. I had a personal call that wound up cutting into.
You had
my
personal
breakdown.
call. You were you forgot there was an extra episode. I was derailed by having to alter the video and a couple other things. Yeah, it was just a cluster of things. So we all came in late, except for Tim. Tim's our punctual boy.
Yes.
All right.
Punctuality.
So
Okay.
I am looking at our season list.
It's definitely me.
Yes, it is definitely you.
Yep,
Yeah.
he already put himself on the chopping block last week for this week.
See,
Yeah,
and I
'cause
would have
it
been
was
happy
either-
to do this week, but that would have required you to do last week's.
So then,
and
Thomas.
Thankfully, I was able to properly do notes for this one, so because I would probably be very lost otherwise.
I got through pretty fine. Anyway,
I just like lack of sleep. I probably would blank a lot.
All right, so starting in 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, we open with Lethbridge Stewart, who has since retired in this 3 years in the future thing. Before moving on to see his replacement down by a lake, Brigadier Winifred Bambara. Then we cut to the TARDIS, where the Doctor is tracking and deciphering a distress signal, which leads them to 3 years into Ace's future on Earth. The Doctor and Ace hitch a ride with an archaeologist named Peter Wemsley, to a dig site at Lake Vortigern, where there seem to be random explosions happening and no one seems to know what's going on. But it later turns out to be these sort of interdimensional Arthurian knights who have landed on Earth. Unit try to call Lethbridge Stewart in, but it isn't until the Doctor is mentioned that he decides to get involved. Brigadier Bambara discovers the TARDIS, only to fight with the seeming Arthurian knights, with her car being damaged in the fight and losing a wheel that gets set on fire. The knights continue to fight until one of them, Anselin, is blasted into the air and through the roof of a brewery. When it comes to recognize the Dr. Ace and a girl called Shao Yung, hear the explosion and find him. And when he comes to, he recognizes the Doctor as Merlin. Brigadier Bambera discovers them and tries to arrest them, only to have them all threatened by the other knights, who turn out to be led by a man named Mordred. Mordred also recognizes the Doctor as Merlin, leaving due to fearing him, only to bring his mother Morgane into this dimension. Morgane communes with the Doctor, threatening him not to get involved, or she'll kill him. The Doctor and Ace go back to the dig site with Wemsley and discover something the Doctor seemingly left for himself, a message saying that he needs to dig there, with Ace blowing up the spot to unearth it. While Lethbridge Stewart, meanwhile, is being helicoptered over to the location that's actually shot down by Morgane, who ends up regretting this and realizing that they've been disrespectful to the dead, and thus makes a truce with Lethbridge Stewart when she catches up to him. He catches up to her, I should say. And they make a truce of sorts while she pays respects to their fallen. The Doctor and Ace go down to a tunnel that they've unearthed and find an entrance that turns out to be encoded to the Doctor's voice, which leads them through to a spaceship under the lake containing the sword of the King Arthur from the other dimension. Ace pulls out the sword without meaning to, activating a defense system of sorts, which corners Ace into a trap that slowly fills it with water, only for the Doctor to eventually manage to activate something that shoots Ace out of the ship and into the lake, allowing her to make it to the shore. Lethbridge Stewart manages to get to the lake and finds out that the Doctor is down there, saving the Doctor and bringing him back up. Morgane finally finds Mordred and uses the helicopter pilot that was with Lethbridge Stewart, who is now at this hotel they've been at, to find out info on either UNIT itself or just the Earth's defenses in general. She also restores a blind woman's sight as payment for all the beer that Mordred had been drinking. After returning to the hotel and evacuating the owners, the Doctor and Lethbridge Stewart use Bessie to go down to the lake and make sure the nuclear weapon isn't activated or attacked, leaving Excalibur with Ace and Shu Yung. The Doctor and Lethbridge Stewart arrive too late as the battle is already underway, but the Doctor manages to stop them as it turns out to be a diversion. Meanwhile, Ace and Xiao Yung are able to resist Morgane, trying to turn them against each other, and after being unable to get the sword herself, Morgane gets an entity known as the Destroyer to rid the protective spell around Ace and Xiao Yung, greatly damaging the hotel that they were in. Backed into a corner. Later, when they're able to catch up with her, Morgane is forced to release the Destroyer upon the world, escaping with Mordred, who she thought was dead. The Doctor realizes that the silver bullets Ace have will actually kill the Destroyer, as it was being chained up with silver restraints. But before he can do it himself, Lethbridge Stewart knocks him out and does it himself, somehow managing to escape the building and survive, only being temporarily knocked out. The Doctor and company put the sword back in the spaceship and realize Arthur is basically just dead and turned to ash at this point, with a letter the Doctor wrote for himself warning them that Morgane has gone after the nuclear missile at the lake. When they get back there, the Doctor is able to convince Morgane that there's no honor in using this missile, and convinces her to abort it. After being informed that Arthur is dead, Morgane basically just gives up, and they manage to capture Mordred as well. The serial ends with Ace, Xiao Yung, Lethbridge Stewart's wife Doris, and Brigadier Bambera going off to have a joyride in Bessie. And that's it.
All right. 6 minutes, 3 seconds.
And that was cutting a lot out.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I could have gone on for like 10 to 15.
Yeah, our previous 6-minute runs were for like 3-part episodes and stuff. This is a lot to take in for an extra episode.
Yeah,
Okay.
like there was stuff that I specifically avoided because I was like, okay, nothing.
That's a side plot that will take forever to explain and isn't important.
Yeah.
Let's just sidestep.
All right, so let's talk about what we liked about this serial. And Tim, you're first.
Oh boy, I get to be first. Okay. So, the thing in general I really liked, I noticed right away, is I love the feel of this episode. It had this, and I mean this sincerely, okay? I'm not being sarcastic. Uh, it had this, like, home movie filmed in someone's backyard feel to it throughout that just made it very appealing and charming. Like, it just fired my imagination.
I
Especially.
would alter that slightly to say it had a very independent movie feel about it. That's more of
Okay.
the feel I was getting. So something similar, but not quite the same.
Yeah. Like, uh, like I had a feeling that the people dressed up as knights were having the time of their lives.
Oh, probably. Save the soldier people too,
Yeah.
probably, when they're given a chance to do
Mhm.
something.
But yeah, like this just whole serial had like just like a sense of fun about it that was very refreshing, I think. And so that's the general thing that I really loved about this episode.
All right, Thomas.
I'm honestly just gonna say, and I've said this for once before, but I just kind of like the general concept of it being one of those sci-fi-ish spin on a sort of myth and legend type deal. And it just being that, in a way, part of it being that it's like, because they're from an alternate dimension, they don't try to explain away like Morgane's seeming magic or whatever is some sciencey shit. It's just, well, they're from a different dimension that works. They're from a dimension that works differently to ours. So yeah, she basically is just using magic. And they actually go for it rather than just being like explaining it away with science or something.
Just have super advanced technology, that's all.
Mm.
All right,
Clark's Law.
is that it, Thomas?
Mm-hmm.
All right, Matt. How about you?
Wow, I'm gonna be last on these. Okay. I love the. Not only did you see the background people seeming to have a lot of fun with what they were doing, but the main foreground people seem to have a lot to chew. In particular, also, we mentioned our villains in this piece in particular. They seem to just love what they were being allowed to do with this one. They were kind of bringing a little bit of Shakespearean, but also taking just a little slice of ham and making sure you had a nice full sandwich there.
Yeah, especially Mordred.
Mordred in particular was being really hammy at parts. At parts it worked really well. At other parts it's just like, oh, this guy's just having fun.
All right,
yeah.
so I like this because I'm a fan of Arthurian legend. I mean, I've seen most of the Arthurian movies out there. I've read La Morte d'Arthur, so I love like nearly every Arthurian legend story. And this takes it, half lampshades it, half plays it true, and it just makes this an enjoyable little story for me. And
Actually,
part of why,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say that's why I like it. What
Hmm.
were you gonna say, Matt?
I actually was just about to mention the fact that it just dawned on me right now that, you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of the Masters of the Universe live action movie. And
Oh God, I hope not.
No, like I actually really enjoyed that movie. As bad as it
I
is,
love
and
that movie.
I admit it's bad, but I still enjoy the hell out of that movie. If nothing else, for the visuals alone. And there's actually a certain level of, I think, the visuals that agree with this episode too, and how they play it up with both the fantasy and the sci-fi elements at the same time, and don't feel the need to explain it because fuck it, it's super science. We don't need to explain it.
I will actually add like one extra thing was that I like that we haven't quite gotten to, like, I was so worried that, oh God, maybe this is where the new series got the idea to portray Unit as like bumbling idiots,
No.
but they actually treat
No,
Unit
that
well.
literally
and
didn't start happening
Brigadier,
till the first season of the new series of New
yeah,
Who.
and like even I was almost thinking they'd try to make Brigadier Bambera maybe look a bit inefficient or something, to be like, well, this is why we've got to get Lethbridge Stewart back. It's like, no, they're equally competent, thankfully.
Yeah,
They're
well,
equally competent in their own way.
she
Mm.
isn't at first because she's so close-minded, but
Hmm. But she
Mm.
does quickly open up, which is more than what it took a Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart a long time to do.
mhm.
Yeah.
All right. So, what didn't we like about the episode, Tim?
I don't know if it's like the copy I had, but there seemed to be a bunch of like time jumps in this episode where like it like sort of like flash forwarded through things that like made me sort of stop and go, oh wait, how did that happen? Oh, like that must have been like in between scenes. Like for example, like there's a scene where the doctor takes out the psychic paper and Sophie and Ace is like saying, "Who's Liz Shaw? I don't look anything like this." Like this,
I don't
and
think
then
those are psychic paper. Those are like
Yeah.
actual IDs he
Yeah,
had in his hat.
those are
Yeah.
old unit pass cards, or what they are.
oh, okay. Well, and then we cut to them immediately in the tent talking with uh Mar what how do you say that the new brigadier name
Martinez?
Bambera.
Bambera. Okay.
Bambera.
Bambera, Bambera, you know, and like I don't know, like maybe I missed that part, or the scene where the brigadier, our brigadier, meets the new doctor for the first time in the spaceship, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, when did he get into the spaceship?
I don't think you yeah, I think there was actually like legit some things that got missed for some reason. And I think the Brigadier one in
Yeah.
particular was one of the ones that showed up, and I think that's not quite the last episode, but I think that's closer and closer to where they started to be a little more noticeable.
Yeah, like we see him getting
Yeah.
to the lake, but I don't think we actually have a
We never saw him
conversation
jump
when
in,
he
and there was
goes.
literally people waiting at that entrance too. So how he managed to get in without
Yeah.
being noticed, I don't know.
hmm
Mm.
Yeah, like just like little moments like that, you know. Really, like there's nothing like wrong with this serial. It's a great serial, but just like some things that sort of caught my eye.
Mm.
Anyway, that's my 2 cents of the not so good. I refuse to
All
call
right.
it bad.
All right, Thomas.
Honestly, the standout thing for me above anything else was just that the 80s music just seemed really out of place with all this fucking fantasy shit going on. And you've just got all this like very 80s, almost early 90s at points sounding music. And I'm like, they couldn't break out a bit of money to get like a small orchestra or something.
No, they
See,
didn't
Like
have
a
the
couple
money.
of violins.
Literally, they had
Like,
enough money to buy a guy at the BBC to get on a Casio keyboard.
well, yeah, freaking
See,
this is JNT era, so it wasn't
Mhm.
even
I
like it was just like the Radiophonics workshop doing everything.
to me, 80s music fits fantasy perfectly because you know I grew up in the 80s with the
It depends upon who used to doing it. Yeah,
Mm.
like if they got Tangerine Dream, that music score would have been amazing.
Mm.
Yeah,
I guess just
well,
like in parts, it was just like, I swear to God, there's one musical cue that sounds like it's out of an.
Uh,
What the fuck?
You
What's
just cut
this
out.
doing in a?
It sounded like it came out of a what now?
like an early 90s video game
No.
or something at one point, and I was just like, what the fuck is what? It's like, it kind of like, in some parts it's fine, but anytime they use that kind of music when we're focusing on the more fantasy stuff in the episode, it just seems really weird to me.
Most of it was fine to me. The only time I raised an eyebrow was at one point where I noticed that we had a Casio xylophone, and I'm just like, okay, this was an interesting choice.
Mm.
But otherwise, the rest of it was fine.
You want to think about what he's saying here is, imagine taking this soundtrack and replacing it to the movie Excalibur.
Mm.
There's that possibility for that too, yeah. Like Excalibur or Legend or gosh.
Yeah, like, I know it's a matter of they couldn't afford to, but it's like, come on, BBC, throw them a bone and just give them some, like,
Unfortunately,
violins or
no, because Michael Grade hated them.
Mm-hmm.
something.
Yeah, the head of BBC like legit hated the show. Period.
Yeah.
Got to remember, it barely survived the 1986 shutdown.
Right. Yeah.
And then it got cut back because it's only making half the episodes it used to prior to the shutdown, which is why we got these little 3-part serials in the first place. And that means, of course, that they are also getting half the budget.
Right. Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like in the grand scheme, can't really blame the show itself for it, but it's just like, god damn it, if they had the budget, the soundtrack could have been much more fitting.
All right, so Matt,
Overall thing I didn't like. Again, this is gonna be a little bit nitpicky, but I could tell when we had some pretty rough models here and there. Like, I believe we only had 1 shot or 2 shots of the underground ship, and it's like, oh, I guess that's kind of okay. But then there was a couple of shots that I think of the castle where they opened up the rift to let Mordred in, and that one, when they did model shots of that, looked really bad.
I
And,
mean,
and
you
the
could
lightning
probably
effects they tried
argue
using with it didn't help.
you can probably argue that most of the effects budget probably went into the Destroyer's mask.
Most of the money probably went into either the destroyer or all of the extras, plus all of the costumes for the extras. Yeah, there was
And yeah.
Don't get me wrong. There's a lot on screen that showed that they had some money, but it also showed in other places that they didn't have enough to finish it properly.
well, I'm betting a lot of what they had they borrowed.
That too. I'm sure half
yeah.
of those night outfits were a good portion of them borrowed from the BBC somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Or even just they were hiring loppers who had their own stuff.
No, because they're too uniform.
Yeah, they're too uniform. Well, then again, there are some LARP groups out there that do uniform up pretty well, but it really depends. But no, I'm pretty sure most of it was borrowed, and like maybe the headgear was something they had to make from scratch, more or less, just to add that sci-fi element to it.
Yeah. Hell, the crystal ball Morgaine is using was literally a like a lighting thing.
Yeah,
she just found somewhere.
That's something you can easily fake and then just add a line to it, and you can take it off screen like it's magic.
If you watch the 25th and 26th season of Doctor Who, a lot of their props are cheap stuff. The time controller from Remembrance of the Daleks is one of those Spencer's gift balls that, you know, the ones that have the electrical lightning that are on the inside.
Oh, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's all their time controller was one of those. And that's because they could run down to Spencer's Gifts or the British equivalent thereof and get it for the equivalent of $50.
Yeah, this looks cool.
Yeah, it was funny because like the actress was even just like, well, I'll use this to practice with, and then she showed up on the day and they just looked at her and were like, can't you just use that? Because she was expecting to get like a proper crystal ball or something. So they just, no, I use this gigantic lighting fixture or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All
Oh
right,
well.
so
Budgets.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's the main problem is budget, and
Mm.
you got to remember this was all made on half a shoestring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As opposed to previous years where it was at least a full shoestring.
Mm.
All right, so what I didn't like about the episode, huh. This is really hard for me because I really like this episode.
Mm. I was gonna say if you have to, you can just like nitpick little things.
That's basically what we have been doing.
Mm.
I think my major problem is while they did include Unit didn't feel like Unit.
That's
I
true.
mean, like
Yeah.
all of the people in Unit were, apparently like from, I don't know, Bulgaria. And it just was like, what happened to, anybody that used to be in Unit? It just like,
Mm.
couldn't you have
Well,
at
I think
least
it's because like at least from what I can tell, is the original idea is this is originally supposed to be a lot further in the future than it is. So maybe that was the idea.
I don't know. That's
But then
still
it just ended up being like 3 years into the future or whatever. So it's a
that
bit.
still feels like a
I don't
reach
know.
for explaining why they're
Mm.
all non
Mm.
UK people and
Mm.
in a UK based group.
well,
Mm.
no.
Well,
Actually, no, it was the writer. This would have been the writer's decision, I think, actually, because he specifically was like, well, wait a minute, why would they all be from the UK if this is the United Nations
That's true,
Well,
Intelligence
too.
yeah.
Task Force?
It
But
is the United Nations Intelligence Task Force, but there you would have thought there would have been a bigger balance.
yeah,
Mm.
it seemed rather one sided.
And,
Mm.
especially considering they're moving around a freaking nuclear missile.
Mm. I guess it might have also been that they couldn't get, they either couldn't get or didn't want to get, like Benton and them back, so they were just like, stuff it.
Or it could have just been for a reason they never thought to try and contact them and write them in. Either way.
Mm. I mean, the Brigadier does seem to be like, oh, okay, this is interesting.
But, I mean, until the proper brig shows up,
Mm.
it feels like none of these people know anything about, weird shit.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Which is unusual for Unit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it just seems like they're like, what, huh? Yeah,
Mm.
it just didn't feel like Unit.
Mm.
All right, so favorite scene, and Tim, you're first.
Oh. I love the juxtaposition scene where the archaeologist is going about the legendary lady in the lake and how the beautiful white-clad lady held aloft Excalibur cut to Ace jumping out of the lake with the sword. Like that was one of those perfect moments that
Mm.
and you can almost picture the archaeologist saying it's like something like that, but more elegant.
Uh,
And less of a, I'm drowning.
yeah. It's funny because apparently that actor was just doing that, where he would just be quoting that shit a lot, and they had to cut a lot of it out.
So he was just an Arthurian guy having fun.
Pretty much, yeah. He was just like, this actor read like a shit ton of Arthurian legend stuff and just start quoting shit out of nowhere in random scenes, so they just left some of it in, but would cut a lot of it out.
At least he gave them plenty to work with.
Mm.
All right, Thomas.
I feel like this might be stealing someone else's, but fuck it. I'm gonna go with the Doctor convincing Morgaine to abort the missile. Just because it's interesting to actually have the Doctor able to, like, you figure he might be able to anyway, because she's shown that she's not like, oh, I'm just completely evil, fuck you. So being able to, it's like, hey, the Doctor actually talks someone out of something for once. Or at least very rare occasion that he'll actually talk, like, the big villain down anyway. So it was nice.
That's one of them, but I also have a few others.
Mm.
All right. Well, Matt.
So yeah, going to me then. One of my favorite scenes was the morning after Morgana is brought through. Apparently, the two soldiers, the new brigadier and the Arthurian knight, were having a brawl, literally all the way from the barn into the inn. And the morning after, as the lights are still out, apparently, the Doctor heads outside. He starts picking up things and putting things back upright. And as he's doing so, he picks up the brigadier's hat. He picks up a sword and carries it with his umbrella. Then uses his umbrella to scoop up a gun by near its handle, and he's then just kind of slowly, quietly walks inside, sets everything down on the counter, proceeds to open up a snack bag, blow into it, and then walks up close to the two soldiers and bang! Good morning. Walk away.
If I remember that too, it's like Ansel was like, okay, yeah, okay. And freaking Winifred Bambera is just like, what the hell? You know. Whereas Ansel's just like, okay, it's Merlin. Yep.
which really tells
Good
you a
and
lot about how much
expected
they know about Merlin, quote unquote. Antics ensue.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I have a couple of favorite scenes.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is when the Doctor's paying for the the drinks, and he reaches into this thing and just dumps this whole bunch of stuff on the counter. And some of it looks normal, and some of it looks really weird, including this thing that looks like a wind-up spider of some kind. And one of the people goes to pick it up, and it's like, hey, that's a very expensive piece of coinage. It's it's like,
I would think so. It's trying to walk away.
Yeah. It's just one of those moments of, it's nice to see the Doctor actually has some money from various locations.
Yeah.
You don't know what location that's from, but you expect it's someplace weird.
Mm.
And then the other one, I think, is where he's going to go stop Morgaine from the nuke, and he just goes past Anselin and Mordred, in the middle of a sword fight, just walks between them, lifts his hat in kind of the good morning look, and they're still going at it, and then they both stop and go to stare. Like, what the hell?
They quickly look back at each other.
And go back to fighting, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. The Doctor just had tons of win moments in this one.
He has those moments of, I don't know, perfection. I mean, there's several moments of like, yes, I have this, but I don't know what it says. It says dig a hole here. In what? My handwriting.
Give it about 60 seconds. Run! Poof!
Yep.
I definitely know
we need to talk about your timers.
I definitely know another one of mine. If I hadn't gone with what I'd gone with, would have been when Mordred has drunk all that beer, and Morgaine comes in and pays for it by restoring that woman's sight. Which
really shows that these are really complicated villains, because that's not a normal villain thing.
Yeah, she actually has an actual sense of honor, and that she's not just gonna go, fuck it, I'll just leave you.
It's actually after just having disintegrated a soldier around the front
Yeah.
walkway there.
Well, she's a warrior and a warrior with honor. Mordred is freaking Draco Malfoy. He literally is. He has no sense of honor or decency. And when cornered, he's like, "Wait till my mother hears of this." Yeah, it's pretty much.
Yeah.
Which is actually kind of funny because his voice so reminded me of like the Chamber of Secrets actor for friggin' Voldemort, like teen Voldemort.
Who was that anyway? Mordred. Christopher Bowen. Oh, he played a commander in the Bond film Tomorrow Never Dies.
Huh.
Prince of Wales and Richard III. He's got a pretty good, not the biggest filmography, but what he has is fairly decent. But no, he was never in a Harry Potter film. Okay.
So he's been around the block now.
All right, so let's talk about your least favorite scenes. And
least favorite scene.
Yep. Tim, you're first.
Okay. Probably the least favorite scenes of mine was when the Czechoslovakian member of UNIT, I forget his name. I'm terrible at remembering these characters' names. Mentions to Bambera, is that her name?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that when I used to work for the old brigadier, we had a
Science officer.
A science officer called the doctor, and it was like, how did she get to be the new brigadier without ever hearing of this?
Right?
Yeah. It's like, and for that matter, as a sort of like a side note, when Lethbridge Stewart's wife mentions, someone mentioned the doctor. Who's the doctor? It's like, okay, I can sort of forgive that, because it's like...
I can kind of forgive that because she wasn't in the know on everything that the Lethbridge Stewart was up to when he was in the army.
Like confidentiality, need to know only, for your eyes only type stuff.
Yeah, I kind of get that the doctor's kind of a state secret.
Basically.
Yeah. But
that would be a state secret that would be shared amongst UNIT, though.
Yeah, you would have thought there would have been a briefing,
Yeah.
I mean, quite obviously, by the RTD era, the doctors required reading. Doesn't stop them from being incompetent morons, but they know they've got special codes to identify the doctor. You would have thought at least somewhere there would have been this is the doctor, this is what he shows up in. If he shows up, it's usually shit happening.
Yep. Like, I remember that he said that line almost word for word, is like, when the doctor shows up, all hell breaks loose. And my first reaction was, you've got that backwards. It should be, when all hell breaks loose, the doctor shows up.
Almost like Gandalf that way, ain't he?
All right. Thomas, how about you?
I can't even remember what the dialogue was, but just this first little scene that we get with essentially Bambera's introduction is just the dialogue in it. While I can't even really remember it that well, it just seemed very clunky to me. It was just like, oh, this is our introduction to this version of UNIT? That doesn't bode well. It's like just very clunky dialogue trying to reach people on the radio and all that, and it's just like, okay. And like they improve as it goes along with dialogue, but just that one scene was like, ooh, off to a bit of a rough start.
It didn't really affect me either way, but as it went on, it did get better.
Mm.
All right.
Can't just base them on the radio chatter.
Matt, how about you?
Worst scene? Trying to think. What would be my worst scene? I would have to go with oh, actually yeah, the scene where what's the Arthurian knight's name? I keep forgetting his name.
Anselin.
Enslin. When Enslin supposedly is supposed to have hit the barn, he was supposed to have gone through a wall. Someone obviously didn't read the script and they made a hole in the roof. Those are very different things. It's a nitpick, but it was definitely something that just made me go. And I think the only other time I went that I had that much of a knee jerk again was another point, but I will let Randy have one before doing any extras.
Yeah.
All right. So my least favorite scene.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's when Morgaine releases the destroyer. And, because she's supposed to release it, and, all the silver cuffs are supposed to fall off. Well, the chains break. All the cuffs are still there. And then the freaking creature then grabs one of the chains and pulls it. I thought silver was supposed to hurt him.
Yeah, he just starts pulling everything off.
Yeah.
Supposedly by her word, silver no longer hurts him or something. I don't know. They didn't explain that very well, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, that wouldn't be true either, because then later on the silver bullets work. So yeah, it's double fail.
Yeah.
It's one of those, what the hell? Yeah. And it's one of those, I'm pretty sure, special effect fails.
Quite possibly. The special effect failed, and so they went to the suit guy and just went, yeah, just pull
them off. Yeah.
Pull them off. Dang it. It's the animatronic dummy.
Yeah.
For those that don't remember, I forget which Harrison Ford movie it was, but they had a animatronic dummy that they pushed off a ledge that was supposed to be like super realistic and was supposed to be able to move and stuff as it went down. Looked stiff as a cardboard and looked absolutely fake. They spent hundreds upon thousands of dollars on it and it was garbage. Whoops.
Oh, interesting, by the way. Anselin was apparently Lord Arthur in Army of Darkness.
Oh. Well, full circle on that one.
Especially funny considering Ace actually refers to him as Arthur at one point.
Here's the sword. You can be King of England.
Now you're going to have to go back in time and deal with a bumpkin from the modern era of the 80s, and he's going to say groovy a lot and swing around this weird chainsaw thing. Good luck with him. Also beware the undead. Good day.
But yeah, it's just one of those weird things I just noticed. Okay, sorry about that.
No, that's an interesting aside. We should actually check on them once in a while and see who these guests are, if they've done anything else since then. So yeah, that would have been like 5 years later, thereabouts.
About 3.
About 3.
Yeah, because this was 89, and Army of Darkness was 92. So
yeah, that's
2
an
to 3
interesting
years,
jump.
depending on how long it took them to film Army of Darkness.
It would have been so great if it turns out, oh yeah, they hired me because of my work on this one Doctor Who serial.
They may have.
They may have, because they want somebody who could sword fight a little bit, or at least stage sword fight. I have experience. What's your experience? Doctor Who. Interesting. Come here.
But yeah, so where were we at?
Um, we just finished worst scenes, I think, and I think you were on it, and you mentioned
Okay, yeah, the demon
yeah
breaking the chain.
Yeah.
the
So it's
breaking the chains, yeah.
So
Yeah.
so we're at final thoughts. And Tim, you're first.
Okay, my final thoughts are this was a excellent episode. I loved the tie-ins to the past. The Brigadier was always welcome. As was the appearance of Bessie.
Yes.
Yes, Bessie working again is always a nice touch.
This is by the way the
Mm.
last canonical appearance of the Brigadier. Um,
Mm.
as the only other time he came back was Sarah Jane Adventures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's still canonical, but this is the only time in show,
Mm.
other than assuming that the Cybermen at the end of series 8 was the Brig, but you never really know.
Mm.
Yeah, not sure on that. I don't count that as being high enough.
No, but this is Nicholas Courtney's last Doctor Who appearance.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
This had a great fantasy / independent movie feel to it throughout, and I don't think there was any bad characters, save for some questionable things with Bambera in the beginning, and like the presentation of the new unit, but that's easily overlooked, I think.
All right.
Mm.
Anything else?
Hmm. I did also love the moment when the Doctor did the Jedi mind trick
Oh yeah,
on the two people. Like,
Mm.
showing a little bit of that Merlin touch.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like, you feel angry and you want to go. You to go.
Mm.
But
All
yeah,
right.
so that's mine.
All right, Thomas.
Um.
It's so weird to me knowing that the writer of this actually doesn't like the final product, because honestly, for what he had to deal with of having to rewrite this from a 3 episode to a 4 episode, while there is some things where he mustn't have been as experienced a writer then, or it was just that he was a younger writer, that, he couldn't format it necessarily the way he wanted it, or it was just what the director did with it that he wasn't a fan of. I honestly quite enjoyed this. Like, there are some points where, upon a rewatch, you're like, okay, yeah, that is a bit iffy here and there, but otherwise, it doesn't take me out of it too much. I mean, even though I was saying that the score kind of took me out of it a bit, it didn't like ruin it for me or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it almost does make me wonder what would have happened if it had just been a three-parter, but we'll never really know. I am interested now though in watching the essentially like TV movie edit that I also have on DVD as like an extra disc, so that's going to be interesting to watch because apparently that also reorders some of the scenes.
Oh,
Mm.
that might actually
Um,
help fix some things. Yeah.
yeah. And there's apparently updated effects as well. So yeah, like I would say, oh, it's actually kind of weird. I would actually say, yeah, I'd recommend this. I'd say people should give this a shot. Especially if you are into fantasy stuff as well, like, or generally like myth and legend stuff.
All right.
I'd say give this a shot. And one thing that actually does almost disappoint me about this is that apparently this was originally intended to kill off the Brigadier. And I actually would have been fine with that. Like, that's the best praise I can give this is if this had been intended to kill off the Brigadier and it had, I would have been fine with that. because this was a good enough story that you could have killed him off, and it wouldn't have been like, oh, why'd they kill him off in this shit story? Because it would have been like, okay, no, I could live with him having gone out on this story.
At least gone out with a bang, hopefully.
Mm.
All right, Matt.
I've seen tidbits and pieces from this for a long period of time. This is my first time seeing the story all the way through. I think the biggest clip I've ever seen was maybe the last 10 minutes or so of this episode. Until now. There's a lot of really good stuff. Sylvester McCoy is probably on top of his game at best on this one. Just has all kinds of sly moments of being either very comical, tongue-in-cheek, and just playing it off for fun, and then having lots of really good, serious, and dire moments. Especially the dialogue with Morgana when he talks her down from using the nuke. And the sort of pseudo Jedi mind trick that he pulls on the two civilians to just calm things down and make things go run a bit smoother like they need to. There's over the top hammy acting, but it's not like so much so that they eat every single bit of scenery. There's some decent acting from not only Sylvester McCoy but from the villains and some of the supporting cast. And Ace is also really good on this, talking about everything from bombs to helping puzzle the secrets out with the Doctor as they are going through the tunnels and everything else. Just a slew of really good things. The only problem I would have is that there's been obviously a problem with money, and that has affected some of the visuals. But if in hindsight they did manage to fix that up, that probably would cure almost all my problems with this particular episode. Otherwise, it's a really solid base. It just needs maybe a touch of fixing. And just a
All right.
touch.
So, as for me, well, like I said at the beginning, I like this episode. I like it. It's been one of my favorites for this season. I really like the Arthurian feel. I like the story. I have no issues with the episode, really, so I can't really say I find anything wrong with it. I highly recommend it. The actors seem to have both fun doing it and seem to do a good job. The writing, for what it was decent. Yes, there's a little bit of special effects problem, but that's budget.
That's budget, and it happens in that era especially.
That's nothing that could have been stopped.
Yeah, at that time, yeah.
So I can hardly distract from it. Yeah. I like this episode.
One other thing I wanted to mention really quick that I completely spaced on that I did want to cover is I love it when you can hit on technology and fantasy and sci-fi and fantasy at the same time and not mess it up. There's been many attempts, and only a handful I can think of have done it very well. And this does feel like one that did really well.
All right. So, ratings. Tim.
Ratings. Well, I'm gonna have to bite the bullet and give this 5 stars. It hurts, but I'll survive.
The pain.
All right.
Ooh, the pain.
That by the way puts Tim for the season at 3 5s and 1 4.5. Mind you, he was our doubting Thomas last week. No offense, Thomas.
You know, we're starting off with the good, you know, so
Yeah. Wait till we get down to June.
and I'll continue to give 5 stars, baffling everyone. We'll see.
All right, Thomas.
I've been wrestling with this in my head, and considering some of the issues I have are mainly just things that the show itself couldn't control, I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt and give it a 5.
Right. Matt.
I'm pretty much right there too. There's just things that they couldn't fix at the time, and to be honest, the acting in particular, as well as a little bit of the storytelling, makes up for it. So 5.
Well, I'm going to have to agree with you all, and that makes this the second 5.0 that we've had, and this will put it in rankings at number 7.
Oh, 7.
Right below Pyramids of Mars.
That's right. Technically, they lower by age, I believe.
Yeah, the newest ones are always at the bottom. Technically, it's technically it's a 7-way tie for first if you want to look at it that way.
Mine.
Yep. Followed by number 8.
Ooh, that means Kinder's going to be knocked out of the top 10 then. Well, it looks
Yep.
like that.
Yeah, that's gonna be a push down to 11.
Still in the top 20.
No,
Yeah.
that's where I predicted it to begin with.
Having a
Ooh,
little.
speaking of, Countryside's going to be bumped out of the top 20. Ooh.
Ooh. There it goes.
Well, we are doing a montage of the best of Doctor Who here.
And then we're going to do a
So-
montage
yeah.
of the worst, so it's going to start some middle ground self-adjusting for a change.
Yep. So number 7, I was correct. Out of 293 things reviewed, it is on par with Caves of Androzani, Remembrance of the Daleks, Hand of Fear, Face of Evil, Pyramids of Mars. It is better than The Pirate Planet, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, Unearthly Child, minus Tribe of Gum, Kinda, and that's it. Number 7, 293. That's all we have to say about Battlefield. Another 5.0.
Hooray!
Yay!
And to be honest, I was worried about putting this one in the good because a lot of people are like, "Nah, I don't like this episode. It's stupid." And
It's not stupid. It just has flaws, and I guarantee you, if they had the money, they could have easily fixed those flaws.
Hmm.
And having
But
some
for
minor
me-
flaws is not going to kill a thing.
really, for me, season 26 is probably one of the best seasons of Doctor Who.
So
I mean, you've got this, you've got Ghostlight, you've got Curse of Fenric. It's a good season.
So with
All right.
that being said, it is time for us to go. So for everyone watching, don't forget, if you want to catch the show, you can catch us on YouTube at Unearthly Podcast. You can catch our live shows and the VODs after on Twitch at Unearthly Podcast. You can also find us on social media at Twitter at Unearthly Pod, Facebook at Unearthly Podcast. And if you enjoy the show enough to want to help us out financially speaking, you can also find our Patreon at An Unearthly Podcast.
All right. So next week, we jump to New Who, continuing the good and move right into the Tennant era. It's the episode we think has the best CGI werewolf in the last 20 years.
Oh, yeah.
It's Tooth and Claw, written by Russell T Davies and starring David Tennant as the Doctor and Billy Piper as Rose Tyler.
Sakra.
And yes, we are including the latest werewolf movies in that.
Oh, yeah. I've seen the
And
Wolfman
freaking-
movies. Ugh.
And freaking Harry Potter and The Prisoner of Azkaban.
Yeah.
God, I hated that werewolf.
None of those werewolves. None of the modern werewolves have had anything on Tooth and Claw. Anyways, see you all next time.
Bye bye.